Hello, welcome to The Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, live on Twitch in front of a live Twitch studio audience. I am going through all of the stats. Well, actually, me and the Twitch chat have already been through the stats. We've had a little look at this information about Ironjawz and Stormcast Eternals. Now, I know what you're saying, Rob. Rob, there's a whole Orruk Warclans book. We did talk about the Cruel Boys on the main stats breakdown yesterday, but we're not talking about, well, we'll show you why. It seems a bit redundant to even have a conversation about Big War or Bone Splitters. It mainly seems to be a conversation about Ironjawz and Stormcast Eternals and what their event results have really done since the new books have been released. Have they got good? Have they got popular? Are people winning with them? Now's the time to find out, really. This is filmed in front of a live Twitch studio audience. If you guys ever want to join us live on Twitch, you really, really should. Because they're just great people. Here they are in the chat. Oh, there they are in the chat. You guys can hang out with them. And this has been brought to you by the stats team of Warhammer Rob, Cabbage, the rest of the guys, and most importantly, Ziggy is also there because Rob does loads. Ziggy's fantastic. Everyone's great, basically. I just present the information is what I do. If you do like the information, you should share it with your local gaming groups because this is data collected from all around the world from different 5-round tournaments. So 2 days, 5-round tournaments is where all this information has come from. We've got most, if not all, of the events that have happened from around the world included in here. So there's a lot of data. This is basically the most information that you're going to get from about competitive Age of Sigmar and generally Age of Sigmar anyway. Yeah, leave some Ziggies in the chat, please. That would be great. Right, so Stormcast Eternals and Ironjawz didn't do it on the main stat show because they deserved their own breakdown, which is pretty interesting. So let's look at the old tome. So let's look at how they performed beforehand. This is really important. So Stormcast, as you can see, 37% win rate. Under the new book, boom, those guys are going to change to 45%. So do I think that that's where they're going to land? I do not think that that is where it's going to land at all. I think that they're going to do better. More people are going to buy long strikes, fulminators, and dragons, and they are going to do better and better. I think we're going to see that number go up. So when I break that down into new tome and FAQ, I really should just be specific. This is after the new Battletome has been released, and this is after the FAQ that we've seen put in place. So, which is normally where we start to really track information from. Everything before the FAQ doesn't really tend to help all of us at all. So the FAQ, that's where they are now. Boom. That's how they look. That's they're at a 45% win rate. I expect that to change. And as we go and look at the sub-factions in a little moment, you'll see some stuff happen there. Okay, let's talk about Ironjawz, okay? And then we're going to look at meta representation. If we look at Ironjawz on here, you can see they were at a 36% win rate. Not very good. Not very good at all. With Big War at a 34% win rate and Bone Splitters at a 41%. Now, Ironjawz, 36% win rate, and as we know, or if you're into competitive Age of Sigmar, a lot of people are having that conversation. Boom. They're up to a 54% win rate. So their new book is very good. It isn't what we call in the danger territory. That's really, really important. It's not in the 55% plus section of the game. As you can see, since that book has been released, Legion of Chaos Ascendant is still up there, Lumineth, Disciples of Tzeentch, Sons of Behemoth, and Seraphon have very recently. So this is taking out anything that happened before the cutoff point, which was the FAQ for the Stormcast and the Orruk Warclans. So they came out previously. I think they came out in September. I'll just double check that with the crew in the chat now. But the cutoff point, so Seraphon doing very well at the minute in recent events at recent time. Over time, Seraphon aren't the best performing army, and in fact, it's still Sons of Behemoth there at the top. Okay, all right, let's talk about meta participation, because that's really important as well. Okay, the armies that we want to look at really are Bone Splitters, Big War. Oh, we can't break them out. Okay, so Big War, 0.7% before the change, and that's actually gone down. That's gone down to 0.6% when their new book came out. Okay, Rob, Bone Splitters, they got a new book, new rules. They took a lot of rules off. How do we feel about that? Okay, so Bone Splitters community definitely feels pretty bad about that because under the new book with all the new rules, that's gone down from 1% to 0.3%. Okay, so which is why we're not going to talk about Bone Splitters today. There isn't a point. We don't have any data. No one's really running them. And that is very interesting when you talk about the same book, but just a different faction. And that specifically is Ironjawz. So when we go and find our Ironjawz, we see that they were already a pretty popular army at 4.2% of the meta. Okay? Really popular. When the new book came out, completely changed up. The most popular army. The most popular army was Stormcast, which we'll talk about in a second. The second most popular army. The most popular army. So do rules drive people's excitement to play with armies? The answer is quite clearly and obviously yes. That's always going to be the case. But good rules also, and I don't just mean broken rules. I just mean rules that make your army fun and engaging to play with on the tabletop, especially games that you're not going to lose with, because Bone Splitters and Big War also have pretty poor win rates as well, which we'll look at in a moment. So just talking about Stormcast really quickly, because that's important. Always a popular army. As you can see, 5.3% of the meta, even though they weren't doing particularly well. So still really popular, and as we've already discussed, became the second most popular army post the FAQ. Okay, so amazing stuff, right? New book, reinvigorates an army, gets them on the tabletop, people play with them. That's how it works, basically. But importantly, in fact, actually, let's just quickly fly back, because there's always a disingenuous conversation that's had, that new book equals best book. Okay, that just isn't the case. Okay, Ironjawz, 54%. A good book, equal with Daughters of Cade, which is a very strong book. Okay, Stormcast, 45%. Okay, still not the top books. Okay, anything over 55% is a problem, and that's Lumineth, Disciple Tzeentch, Suns, and Seraphon. And the new Ironjawz haven't really dethroned them particularly much. They've hurt them, but they haven't dethroned them. That Seraphon and Sons of Behemoth have been floating around there for a while. So, like, the new book being OP isn't really a situation. It's got some problem units in. I know a lot of you are going to say Rob Gore Grunters are a problem unit. Maybe they are, but there are already existing problem units in the game. Okay? All right. That makes sense, right? Good. Thanks, Twitch chat. Are you okay? None of you said anything for a minute, so I'm kind of panicking now. I miss you. That's what I'm saying. All right, okay. Let's go look at the faction review. So as we've talked about, we're going to talk about Ironjawz first. Okay, so they were at a 36% win rate previously. Okay, Iron Suns was the most popular sub-faction. You can see here, right? What are these things on the right? You might not have watched yesterday's show, so you're not sure what I'm talking about. Over on the top right-hand corner, you have top, middle, and bottom. Now, those refer to tiers. So basically, any army that has a win rate of over 55% goes into the top tier, or as we call it, the top of the meta, or the sin part of the meta. The middle, the fat middle, is everything that's got a win rate between 55 and 45% of the meta. Sometimes we include a couple that are just below that. And then the bottom tier, or the bin tier, are any army that's got 40-ish% or worse win rate at the bottom. And what's good is because some armies do better against certain tiers. The top tier sometimes kind of fight amongst themselves, but also there are some armies that do better into the top tier, and some armies that don't do as well into the top tier, but super well into the bottom tier, right? So, Iron Suns, as you can see, they have a better win rate than the other sub-factions overall, with the Choppers being not good. But again, not tons of data, and Bloodtooths on a 40% win rate. But if you ran Iron Suns, it was 43. This changes up so much under the new book. So the army goes up to a 54% win rate straight off the bat. 460 games, it's a lot of games already in the bag for this new book. Okay, let's look at the sub-factions. Bloodtooths, which allow those Gore Grunters to be battle line, immediately 49% win rate. Yeah, 49% popularity. They're the most popular sub-faction. Iron Suns in second. Let's look at Iron Suns. As you can see, the Iron Suns have got a 48% win rate. They don't do as well into the top, middle, or bottom of the meta. Oh, no, sorry. They do slightly better into the top of the meta than the Iron Suns do, right? However, Bloodtooths, 61% win rate. Right up there at the top. Yeah? They do better into the top meta, 49%. So there are only 3 armies that perform well into the top meta. Seraphon, Tzeentch, and Sons of Behemoth. play well into the top of the meta. They're the only ones with win rates into the top of the meta. On average, some armies, sub-factions do better into the top of the meta, but this goes straight up, which is amazing, from 44 to 49%. And they crush the middle of the meta, though. So they hang around the fat middle massively. Look at that, 68% win rate. Into the bottom of the meta, they're about the same. So Bloodtooth's huge popularity in that win rate, massive. Is it because of the Gore Grunters? That has to be the question. They can have them as battle line. I would say I don't think it's the Gore Grunter issue. I think, ultimately, in my opinion, is actually their allegiance, or sorry, their sub-faction allegiance ability for the move, which is so good. That's what I'm saying. And then so one of the kind of follow-ups is you would expect them to kind of do an alpha strike with the pigs, as NapGod is suggesting in the chat. You take your units of pigs, you mighty destroyers them, which means they get to make an extra move. That means they're moving 18 inches forward, and then they're charging. It's pretty impressive. You war chanter up those pigs, and they become super strong. And then you make the Maw Crusher use the fasten ability for a once per game move. So he moves 12 inches, another 12 inches in the movement phase. So you basically charge your whole army out in the first turn, which would mean you would want to see a one drop, but we're not really seeing that. Like 47% of the lists do have a battle regiment, but 57% have a warlord. That's because I think at the moment you're seeing a lot of double Maw Crusher lists. So you're seeing 2 Maw Crushers, and so they want the extra artifact in their army. Is what we've seen. Maybe have an Arcane Toe Maw Crusher, maybe have a Amulet of Destiny Maw Crusher is what you're seeing. So that Warlord Battalion showing off that you just can't, like, they're Ironjawz players at the end of the day. They want big, strong boys, right? They're so fast it doesn't matter if you're second as you sit out of range. That's true from pro to tabletop. So that's Ironjawz overall. Since the new book released, you're most likely to get 2 wins with them, 33%, but that's very close with most likely being able to get 3 wins. We have this thing on the show again, the first time you've listened to any information. We have this thing called the positive win rate potential, so PWRP. So that's your likelihood of getting more wins than losses, so going 3-2 or better at a tournament. And it's not bad for these guys. It's 52%, so a little bit above average, which is quite nice. So the PWRP, which we should put a hot link. So that's Ironjawz. Do I think that they need changing? Maybe you could put 10 points on pigs. I wouldn't put 30. Do Maw Crushers need a change? No. Their base is massive. You can screen them quite nicely. If you put the points up on pigs, you just end up with brutes in Iron Suns, and brutes are fantastic anyway. I think you should give some opportunity for people to wait, but they definitely are very destructive. They definitely are very destructive as an army. Maybe you could see some points changes move around a little bit just to try and cap them down, but that 54% win rate isn't obnoxious. They put some in our very, very, we're happy with that. Anything between 45 and 55, we're happy with. And don't forget, these are super popular. We have seen, so I've been doing the stats show for Age of Sigmar for years. So when we first saw Slaanesh released, or Flesh Eater Courts, or Daughters of Cain, we saw them sitting at win rates of over 70% on release. First 2 weeks on release, and then it continued to, it either plateaued, sometimes escalated, and it took an FAQ to really reduce those down. Sometimes we saw them drop down to things as low as 65%, which, as I'm saying, is obnoxious. So the fact that they're the most popular army, everyone's put them out there, everyone's playing with them, as we've seen, they're the most popular army at the moment, but they're only getting the 54% win rate, makes me very comfortable. Like, they seem strong, I agree, but they aren't winning everything, and that's super important. Now, that might change over time as we see more on the tabletop, as people get more practice with them, but what they aren't are those early releases that we saw from Flesh Eater Courts, Slaanesh, which would just face roll auto wins in some situations, and I'm really happy to see them in that place. So if anyone starts hating on the pigs, send them my way, because so far seems okay, right? The popularity makes the data relatively well tested as well, and I agree with NapGod. So there we go. Like, I know you don't want to hear it. You might be like, I don't want to hear it. So there we go. Now, on to Stormcast. Let's look at Stormcast. And here we go. Stormcast. Boom. Okay. So this is Stormcast Eternals. So previous to the old book, Hammers of Sigmar was the most popular because of that shoot twice command ability. Which was, or was that in Anvils? Was that Anvils or Hammers? I don't remember. But either way, they were sat on a 43% win rate, so a little bit underneath what we wanted them. We want them. It was Anvils. Thank you. So I don't know who these people were running Hammers of Sigmar. Weird people. But well, okay. Were they a better win rate? Apparently, they were a better win rate. Okay. Apparently, Shootcast was not the one. However, in Age of Sigmar 3, 43% win rate. So we would have liked them to have been a little bit better. Like, not loads, but a little bit. I forgot. Oh, I do have multiple selected. Sorry. Thank you. Start again. Okay, Old Tome. It was Anvils. I was right. Okay. And they had a 30... thanks, Twitch chat. Love you. They had a 37% win rate. Okay. They liked Warlord battalions, I guess, for multiple artifacts. I don't know what they were taking them on. But yeah, Anvils was the most popular because you wanted that shoot twice command ability. And a 37% win rate. So going into the new book, and that changes around a little bit. Look at this. Hammers of Sigmar, far and away the most popular sub-faction, 51% of the time. And I'm also looking for a battle regiment as well. Now, Hammers of Sigmar make your Dracoths battle line, which is why I think we're seeing these so popular, because before the release of the Dragons, we haven't really needed anything else. And also the battle line units, like, it's a pretty elite army. So as much as the Vandactors, Vindictors, Vindicators, whatever you want to call them, are good, you probably want the Dracoths as your battle line, truthfully, which is why you're seeing them in there. And then Vandal, yeah, yeah, that's the name of them. So that's why Hammers of Sigmar are the most popular by a long stretch, because they're just really, really good. And their win rate with them goes up if you look. If you're running Hallowed Knights, 44% win rate. If you're running Knights Excelsior, 41%. Although apparently Knights Excelsior is not bad into the top of the meta. Not a lot of matches with them, but what are they doing? That is interesting. A research for later is what I'm going to look at. But Hammers of Sigmar, as a sub-faction, have got a 50% win rate. And you have to think that most of the competitive choices were made here, as you can see. And they're more in the middle, which is nice, because that 45% win rate is right at the bottom of where we want them to be. But actually, if you're taking maybe one of those competitive choices, looks really nice. Excelsior, is Excelsior Annihilate a Paladin spam? It might be. It really might be. Battle Regiment still seems to be a thing that they want. That makes sense. The army deep strikes, so maybe wants the opportunity to make sure it can deep strike and it doesn't get zoned out on the board. And your positive win rate potential with this army is not bad. You're most likely to get 3 wins with this army, 26%. 2 wins is 24, and 1 win is 22. So it feels more like a 2-3 army than a 3-2 army. Knight Excelsior is Paladin battle line. Okay. Interesting. The Mortals on the Paladins? They've got the 2-up armor save? That is some hot gossip there. There's the Paladin list, but look what it plays into. Looking at the Excelsior sub-faction, plays better into the top of the meta, or it goes into the 50% bracket, which very few people do. The mid-bracket, as you can see, it does worse, but it really struggles into the bottom tier. I assume that's because the Paladin spam is really good at delivering a lot of mortal wounds, but is bad at taking out big swaths of the enemy. A lot of the armies that you see in the bottom tier tend to be armies that have lots of bodies. Skaven, Gits, Beasts of Chaos, they're all in the bottom tier. They have a lot of bodies on the board, and it looks like those Knights Excelsior can't deal with them particularly well. However, the Hammers of Sigmar do better into everything. So they just seem like a better all-round army. Okay, so that's Stormcast Eternals. Now we get to do the final fun bit. Okay, so win rate over time. Our brand new stat. Shout out to Ziggy on this. So here you can see how the armies have performed since book release. So the old tome, that's when the new tome came in. So look at that immediate jump. So purple, as you can see in the center here, look at this immediate jump when the new book came in for the Ironjawz. Then they got that FAQ saying that they could do the command ability 3 times on all-out defense and all-out attack, and it's jumped up a little bit more. For Stormcast, the new tome came out, they hit 38%. I think a lot of people just putting their new armies on the board, and then you saw this big jump into 45%. I would expect that to go up over time. Similarly, if you look at the win rate by month, you see that drop down for Stormcast, but October and November, we had the same results, really, for Stormcast, but Ironjawz just getting better. starting out at 51. In November, we've seen them go up to a 57% win rate. So they are pushing into what is the problem area, that top right-hand corner. So if that continues to chart upwards, we could be in a really problematic place. Let's compare them to some of the big hitters, because it's absolutely worth doing. So some of the big hitters, Lumineth Realm Lords. As you can see here, they've had a very fluctuating a series of results. 58%, they've moved into that kind of 52% category here, and then 58 again. 60%, 62 in September. October, they had a pretty bad month, 51%, but November, they started to bring it back at 57. It'll be interesting to see what the FAQ does to them. Let's take a look at Daughters of Cain or Morathi the Bow Snakes. Consistently, it looks like they've just had a few poorer months over time. August and October weren't kind to them, but they've popped up a little bit. And they had a bit of a blinding month in September, so that's really nice. I don't think anything particularly has changed there, but the ability for the Ironjawz to chase them down could be why we're seeing that. So that's Daughters of Cain. Oh yeah, Daughters of Cain. Yeah. They overlaid really nicely with Lumineth. Oh, I've dropped one of the other armies off. We want to keep Lumineth, and we want Ironjawz to come back. There we go. Hey, that's interesting. That is interesting. Like, people started playing Tank Eels to help versus that alpha. That's true, Dice Macabre. Appreciate you in the chat. And then, who else do we want to look at? We'll look at the current winners of Age of Sigmar, the Sons of Behemoth. So there we go. So 62% at the start, or as you can see, 58%. And actually, 62, August and September were very good for them. And then 59 and 57%. Now, they're getting a little bit worse as time goes on, and I would assume there's a couple of things that happened here. This 58% win rate in July bumped up massively in August and September, helped by that White Dwarf release. You got that Bosses of the Stomp battalion that they were able to take, and then they pushed into October and November. You might think that maybe in October, November, people are realizing how maybe to shut those Gargants down. Maybe they're teching specifically to take down Gargants. Being one of the most popular armies, they're building armies that can pass that DPS check. So that's really interesting how they're playing into Sons of Behemoth over time. And then Seraphon. This is kind of the interesting bit of news. You might see some nerfs coming up to Seraphon. But if you look at their results, they're tracking upwards. July, don't forget, Seraphon were a menace in Age of Sigmar 2. They were a menace. And because of that, they had a very particular army build, which was Fangs of Sotek. But the army is so adaptable. So what's happened is they've been able to move with the meta, but you haven't seen that early in July and August, but you've started to see that September, October, and November. How have they done that? Thunder Lizard and Draco Tail Salamanders. Those are the kind of plays that we've seen change them up. They've pivoted away from clouds of skinks, and they've started taking Stegodons with Sky Street Bows and Salamanders and Bastiladons that shoot twice, and they've been able to just get better and better results, taking advantage of those battle tactics that monsters score more points with, and I think that's what you're seeing happen there. Also, they play really well into a meta. Ironjawz do an additional +1 damage on their weapon profile thanks to the War Chanters, but Thunder Lizard reduces that damage down by 1. So there's a nice counterplay there. Mega Gargants either do damage 3 or damage 2. They're the most popular in the meta. You take Thunder Lizard, you reduce the damage. That's your sub-faction ability. You reduce damage incoming by 1. You neuter their ability to do the output, which I think is really good. So there you go. Some great information there. Now, these will be slides that are available on thehonestwargamer.com for you guys to check out. We are also working on a way to host this what's it called? Data portal? I can't remember what it's called. But whatever it is, on the Honest Wargamer website as well. It's taking some working out to do. We think we have to pay a particular web app. Thank you. We have to pay a particular program to be able to host it to then put it on, basically, if that makes sense. But then you guys should be able to press all the buttons and have a little look for yourselves, which should be fun. So that's something we're hopefully going to try and work on maybe for January or something. We'd also like to put it on the app that we have. It's only available on Android at the minute, but HWG Plus, so Honest Wargamer Plus, again, I'll put that in the show notes, which is a way for you to track your games when you play games. Also, eventually we'll be tracking stat data and player data from that, which will be really, really fun. So loads of ways to help you play better games of Age of Sigmar in the future, make good decisions with what you want to buy, and also just great information just to have at hand anyway, right? So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. It's been really fun. Thank you to Ziggy, Rob, and the rest of the stats team. They've been brilliant. If you do have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them below. If you do have any ideas on what you'd like to see in the future, you can let us know. That'd be really, really good. And thanks for tuning in to the Wargamer. Don't forget, like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that jazz. See you guys soon.